Hello. So what we're going to start doing is just flushing out some more UI of this task detail view controller. What this thing is going to eventually do is it's going to be used to create a task. It's also going to be used to delete a task. And then in the lab, you're going to do a lot more with it. So where it's at right now is pretty basic. And then where we're going with it at the end of this is it's going to look roughly like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start off by playing in the storyboard. So just go ahead and fire up the storyboard file and find that task detail view controller, and we're going to start adding some stuff. So it's kind of like constraints 101 today. So the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm actually going to start in the upper right hand corner. I'm going to start by bringing over a button. So I'm going to put a button, using the right guide, and then I'm going to stop at the lower of the two guides. There are actually two guides on the top, the lower of the two. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply those two constraints, the top and the right, just so it's kind of locked in there. Instead of the word button, I'm going to delete the word button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an image. I could use either of the star images. I think the gold star one is prettier, so I'll just kind of stick it on there. It's, of course, a very large image. I'm going to take it down to something smaller. I think I used 30-30 in the notes. That seemed fine. I might go with like 32-32. You can look at it and see what you think. So once I add those constraints, I will go ahead and have to fix the misplacement. It's up there. Yeah, maybe it should have been a little bit bigger, but I'm fine with it. All right, so we've got a button up there, fully constrained. Excellent. Let's go ahead and shoot over to the left next. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a label over there. So I'm just going to say UI label. This UI label, it's hard to believe how little screen real estate I get on a recording. But this label, what I want it to do is I want it to be centered with the star. You could choose centered or you could choose baseline. I think either would look good. I think in the slides I did centered, so I'll do that again here. This label, what it's going to do is it's going to say task, or you could have it say task description. Either is fine. Obviously, it's got bigger, so it needs to grow some. I'm just going to click away, click back, and then hit Command equals, and then that'll expand it. What this guy's going to do is he's going to have a relationship to the star. So I just right-click, drag from one to the other of center Y. And then he's also going to have a relationship to the side, the margin over there, and I'm just going to do of 0. So that'll take care of his X and his Y, and then his width and his height, we'll just let him hug his constraints. Another thing that I do like to check on is whenever I add that align center, there's always a possibility that there's a slight, off by. If you wanted to fix that, you can. I'm just going to leave it. All right, so those are the first two. Those should be pretty obvious. The next one you get a choice on. So you can have one of two things here. You could use a text field, and a text field, you can make it editable, and you could do things with a text field. If you like the look of the text, sorry, this is a text view. If you like the look of the text view, you could do that. The first time I worked this app, I used a text view. It's nice if you think these tasks are going to be long, like multiple lines. The last time that I worked this app, though, I just used a plain old text field, which is probably what you would have assumed initially anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and go with the text field. The way I'm going to set it up is I'm going to kind of like find the right edge, and I'm going to go until I hit the star, and then there's an edge right there. And I'm going to go ahead and add constraints for the top, the right, and then I'm also going to do the left, but not of 400 something, of 0. So I'm going to add those constraints. Once I do that, I want to fix the misplacement. I really should remember the shortcut key for fix misplacement, but I can't remember what it is right now, so I'm just going to click through all the buttons to fix the misplacement. So that looks pretty good. Just because we are going to have a ton of space in this view controller, I'm going to make it taller. Taller is a little ridiculous, and I'm sure that there's some people that would hate my choice to make it taller, but I'm going to make it taller. To be honest, the reason I'm making it taller is because the first time I made this app, I did it with a text view, and I made it 50, and then when I switched to a text field, I thought it looked better at 50 as well. So I think that looks good enough. I think if I had it to do again, maybe I would have brought this down some. If you care, fix it, right? Some other things that we want on this guy, so we've kind of got the top area ready. We want to have some more buttons on the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a total of 3 bar buttons. So I'm just going to drag out 2 more. And I want them to be center, left, and right. So what I want to do is I want to use a flexible space. And so what a flexible space does is it's just kind of like a spring, right? So it just kind of pushes it wherever. The one on the right is going to say the word save. So it's obviously for saving. And then the one in the middle, this one we're going to have to be sneaky about. It's for delete, but it should only be visible, and I'm going to switch it to red because I feel like delete should be red. It's going to only be visible if this is an edit, right? So if it's a create, we're going to have to figure out some logic to not even show it. But if it's an edit, then we do want it there. All right, so those are our basic views. You can see there's really not a lot going on in this, this view controller, but it still takes a ton of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start making some connections. There's various outlets and actions that we're going to wire up along the way. So I'll just kind of start at the top. The star button, since I need to change its image, I definitely need an outlet to him. So I'll just go ahead and say outlet, and I'll just say star button. And then also I want to be able to click it as well. So I'm going to right click from it and make an action as well. So I'm going to say pressed star. Cool, so that guy should be good. Next one down is the text field. And so what I want to do is I definitely want an outlet to him. And so I'm going to call this the task text field. I think in my notes I wrote text view. That was an accident. It's because the last time I did a text view, but now it's a text field. So there we go. I'm also going to be sneaky while I'm on the text field. I want to hide the keyboard if somebody presses enter for the task. That's an optional feature. It's just what I'm going to choose to do. So my task cannot be multiple lines. If they try to make it multiple lines, the keyboard's just going to go away on them. Numerous ways to hide the keyboard. The one that I'm going to use first is I'm going to make a connection to the view controller. I tried to bring it up, something moved. I'm just going to put it over here. And what I want is that text field, I want to connect its delegate. So I'm not sure how much we've done with delegations. I forget the old videos. But there's certain events that when they happen, it's going to call my TaskDetailViewController. The one thing you have to do is you have to claim that you implement some protocol. In Objective-C, when you claim you implement a protocol, you have to put it in the angle brackets. In Swift, you just say comma and you just start listing it. So we're going to claim that we implement the text field delegate. The nice thing about this protocol is all the methods are optional. So we actually have implemented it because it's optional. And when we get to the code, we'll show you how you can make the keyboard go away when they hit the return button. All right, so we're doing good, but we've kind of only done the very top. But we've got the button, 2 connections to hit, 2 connections to the text field, and then we've also got things on the bottom. So on the bottom, one thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to be able to remove, like show and hide the delete button. So we're going to need an outlet to the delete button. So this is the delete, I guess I could call it bar button. Technically it's a bar button item, but bar button is enough. And then this one, I'm just going to tell you the punchline. In order to remove something, you're going to also need a reference to the toolbar, which probably should have a clever name, but I'm just going to say toolbar. And I'm sure I'll know what that means later. So those two you might not have expected, except for you knew there's going to need to be some mechanism to hide the delete button based on my discussion. So that's going to be how we're going to do that. And then the last part is not very surprising. We want an action for cancel, which we've already got. We want an action for delete. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it right after, making sure to select action. Pressed delete. That looks good. And then also for save, I like to drag from the outline better. I'm going to give him an outlet or an action as well. pressed save. Great, so I think I've got all the connections that I need. If I forgot any, I'll come back and get them later. The next thing I have to do, because I'm OCD, is to go through and fix my spacing on things. All right, there you go. I didn't make you watch it, but I fixed all my spacing preference. Doesn't that just look so much nicer? All right, so we've got a lot of actions, we've got a lot of outlets. Let's implement at least a little bit, right? So we won't implement a lot, but we'll implement a little bit. So let's just go ahead and take it at the top. The first thing is the star. So let's just go ahead and implement the bare minimum of the star. So with the star, what we want to do is we don't want to modify the real object star, right? So we want a temporary copy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a property. So we're just going to do non-atomic of a bool. Again, you don't say strong or weak because it's a primitive. And it's just going to say starred, right? If you don't set the initial value, it'll start off at false, which is just fine. And if somebody presses the star, what we want to do is we want to say self.starred is equal to the inverse of self.starred. In addition to changing it, we're also going to need some way to update the star image. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a function called update star, because I know that I'm likely to call this from a couple places. I mean, particularly when the page loads, I'm going to need to call update star. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that now, because I'm pretty sure I would forget otherwise. So in view will appear, the first thing I'm going to do is call super view will appear. And I'm going to say self update star. This is mainly important if you're doing an edit, because you never know how the edit's gonna handle. So like before this, you would actually like to do set fields to the task if this is an edit. That'll be much later. But to be honest, the default state is false, and our storyboard had the default state as true. So I need to call this just to get the code and the storyboard like in sync. In order to update the star image, I probably should have said update star image in my function, but it's too late now. If it's starred, then we want to set the star button, maybe set image, there we go. We're going to set the image, and you know what, I'm just going to inline it here. Image named, and my name, if it is starred, is goldstar.png. For state, I'm just going to use my trick of hitting enter and then taking off the parentheses and just see what my options are. Normal is the one we want. Great, so that's if it's starred, and then if it's not starred, copy paste that, it'll be the gray star. Cool, so we're just kind of doing simple stuff quickly, right? So these connections, outlets, actions, you should know how to do this. It doesn't matter if it's Swift or Objective-C. You should just be able to crank these things out. Right now, if you click on a row, it does not launch into edit mode yet. We just haven't gotten that far. We're only working on add. So if I click on add, you can see that it starts off empty, which is good. If I click it, it goes on. Click it, it goes off. On, off, on, off. Cool, awesome. Next thing we want to do is if I click in here, I want to be able to type a task. Type a task. This is cool. Something very sneaky is happening here. The sneaky thing that's happening here, which I worry about Apple's choice on this, is it's not showing the keyboard. I wish it showed the keyboard. I think that's a mistake by Apple, because if you look at this, it appears to work, right? Like I might ship this. But if you think about a real app, like if I wanted to click on like save or cancel down here, I can totally do it in the simulator. But in a real like device, you won't have an external keyboard, and there will be a giant keyboard in the way, right? So, I mean, I don't know. So if you tried to do something here and you tried to hit save, you can't see it. So what we did is we at least connected the delegate. And so we've got the delegate on this guy. And so when I hit like the return key, there's a delegate method that would be getting called to hide the keyboard. We just need to go implement that. And so you can see that I'm stuck right now, right? So maybe as a developer, I didn't know this is going to be a problem. And I've given my users a piece of garbage, right? So we're going to take the basic step of hiding the keyboard, and that's if somebody hits the return key, I want that to hide the keyboard. So that's just kind of the minimum. What I like to do is I like to divide things with a pragma mark, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put UI text field delegate methods in. And if you happen to know them, great. But if you don't know them, you can just hit Command and click on the word, and it'll take you in here and it'll show you some of your options. The ones that we care about are like when they hit the enter button, we kind of want to know what to do. The one that we're going to override is text field should return. So it actually gives you a chance to ask you a question about whether you want to do a return or something different. And that's where we're going to sneak in here and we're going to hide the keyboard. It does require you to return yes or no. And so it doesn't really matter if you say yes or no, but this function is the one we want. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that word, have it on my keyboard. Come over here, and I'm going to start typing. It was a bool, and the function was called. I'll paste it in. Should return. It should have auto-completed for me there. The trick I used is I took off the N, and then I went back and I hit Control Space, just so it auto-complete for me. And then after that, I have to fix the sizes there. And what I want to do is it passes in the text field, which is handy. I want to call resign first responder. What that does is it makes you no longer the focused item, and it hides the keyboard. And then after that, we need to return something. We'll say yes. I don't think it actually matters whether I say yes or no there, because really it's the side effect that I'm most interested in. This first responder thing, by the way, when the view appears, it might actually be really good to set the self.task text field to become first responder. The reason you might do this is because most people are going to come in here and they're going to want to type stuff, right? And so we can go ahead and make their life a little bit easier by making him the first responder. All right, let's try this again. So I hit plus, and you can see that it did what I wanted. It put me right into the task description. It is really annoying to type in the simulator with this, but it will give you a better understanding of when the keyboard is up and down, right? So I'm going to say send flowers. When I hit return, what I'm hoping happens is the keyboard goes away, right? So hit return. Sure enough, the keyboard went away. The star does what I want. When I click it, it changes to be a starred task or not. If I hit save, nothing happens. The delete button shouldn't even be here, right? So I need to fix that, but later. The only button that does anything is cancel, right? And of course, that doesn't save anything. All right, I think that's enough UI for now. Let's just kind of glance at what we did. We added some various widgets. We added some various constraints. We made a whole host of IB outlets, most of which we haven't even used yet. And then we thought ahead about this whole keyboard issue that we're going to have. Anytime you put a button in the bottom of the screen, you got to think carefully about that keyboard because it's going to get you. The way we did it this time, and we're going to do it a different way later, is we handled hitting the return key, and that'll fix on a real hardware device. And then we implemented a couple things. We implemented the star button just because it would be fun. And then some little things like resigning the first responder and becoming the first responder. All right, I think that's enough for this time. Those were just some basic UI skills. Come back next time and we'll move towards creating tasks, but actually we're going to sneak in a little refactor. All right, see you next time. Bye.